Oh, 1123 has been around for a while, but there are some champions who still are played nowhere near enough for how good they actually are. Like, we're talking 60% win rates in high elo, but for some reason people still want to pick Yasuo, Yuumi, and Malphite. So in today's video, the Jizz is going to reveal 12 underrated champions that you should definitely consider picking for the rest of this patch. You will also get the best rune page for each pick and their 3 core items, so let's get into it. Now, starting off this countdown, we have Blue Kayn, who in high elo has close to a 60% win rate, and we're going to get straight into the build here because that is really what is making Blue Kayn OP. So we're starting with Prowler's Claw. This item got buff, remember, so it's 100 gold cheaper, and the active is also dealing more damage. Then we're following this up with a Mana Mune, which will turn into Mirror Mana, and then finishing our 3 items setup with Axiom Arc. This new lethality legendary item, which is costing 3000 gold, is giving you a ton of ability haste, which is really important for Blue Kayn, but it's decreasing your ultimate's cooldown, as I'm sure you all know by now, by 25% if you get a kill and or an assist. And for Blue Kayn, having your ultimate up more often just makes you a much scarier champion. Now, in terms of your runes, of course, we're going Dark Harvest with Sudden Impact Eyeball Collection, but we are taking Ingenious Hunter, not Relentless Hunter. This is because we can get more sand swipes off. This is the Prowler's Claw active, and that just means we can be more active in a game. Then we're following this up with the Inspiration Tree with Footwear, and then Cosmic Insight to Adaptive Force, and then Armor or Magic Resist depending on the enemy jungler. So Blue Kayn at the moment is super underrated for these reasons. Now, coming in at number 11, we're going to head to the top lane and talk about Wukong. Now, why is Wukong low-key broken? Well, think about it. Wukong, even though he's been nerfed that many times, Divine Sunderer is still by far the best fighter bruiser mythic in the entire game. And I also want to show you this rune page, Lethal Tempo. Even though you can still stack Conqueror and make use of it, despite the nerfs, the new Lethal Tempo means you don't have to go an attack speed shard. So 2 Adaptive Force, and we kind of make up for this lack of attack speed by taking Alacrity. Now, Wukong, because you have an attack speed steroid with your E, which increases your auto attack speed, stacking Lethal Tempo becomes even easier, and the extra range, which works really well with your Q as well, this counts as a stack, it can be really oppressive. Wukong also is just a great all-around pick in the top lane and does very well against pretty much every AD champion you're going to find because of your passive, which is giving you armor and tankiness. Coming in at number 10, we have the only AD carry on this countdown, I'm so sorry, but this is Twitch. And the reason why Twitch is super underrated at the moment is because even though the laning phase into popular range champions at the moment in the bot lane, so Caitlyn, Jinx, Ashe, yes, the early laning phase is pretty hard, but once you get out of this and get your ultimate, no one is going to escape that fire, especially these champions, because their mobility really isn't that great. Caitlyn, Jinx, Ashe, they are going to cop all of that damage. But as far as your runes and your builds go, please go press the attack. Lethal Tempo, you don't really need. PTA is giving you way more DPS, and to be honest, accessing Lethal Tempo 6 auto attacks, it's not like you need the range because you have insane range of your ultimate anyway. And as far as your items go, I'd highly recommend rushing to Borg first, then Kraken, and then a Runaan's Hurricane, and you can take heal or cleanse with your flash depending on the enemy bot lane. Now let's head to the mid laning. We have Echo. Now I know that in lower elos, Echo is probably picked a lot, and to be honest, he's a really annoying champion to play against. Well, now because mages are actually stronger, because Everfrost has been buffed, Crown of the Shattered Queen has been buffed, Void Staff, Shadow Flame, these new items have empowered these AP damage dealers, and who does well into these champions? Echo, of course. Your ultimate makes you impossible to kill in your mobility against skill shotters who are typically going to abuse these new items like Lux, Syndra, Ahri, Victor. Echo just does extremely well. And the first tree in your rune page is very standard with Electrocute, but for your secondary tree, take Sorcery with Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm. This gives you more one-shot potential when you're running out of base or running towards a team fight, and also gives the scaling that you work so well off. And as far as your items, very standard stuff with Rocket Bell, Lich Bane, Death Gap, you cannot go wrong here. Now, another mid laner I'm going to recommend for the rest of this patch, this is going to be Lissandra. And the reason why I love Lissandra so much is because Everfrost is just 2800 gold, and we talked about this in one of our videos. For a mythic item, this is 127% gold efficient. So the value in the actual power spike, which is probably still going to be in the early to mid game, is going to be nuts. Also, Liz is just such a solid pick. She has wave clear, she has setup, she has amazing team fighting, but make sure you're starting with Corrupting Potion and taking Biscuit, Delivering, Time or Tonic. This is going to give you the sustain and trading power you need in the laning phase. Now we're going to head to the jungle for this next pick, and this is Taliyah. Now for whatever reason, in high reload, Taliyah has always had a really good win rate, and you know why? Because she works. But for whatever reason in lower elos, she just isn't actually picked that much as a jungler. And to be honest, I don't know why, because she just looks like free LP. I understand it's the pre-season, it doesn't really matter that much, but she's a great champion to learn until season 12 hits. With Luden's Tempest, the extra magic penetration from Void Staff, and then Zhonya's, this is one of the strongest core item setups in the game. And your rune page with Dark Harvest is your keystone, this is very standard. And Taliyah as a jungler just has everything you want. She has a good clear speed, setup, ganking potential, even skirmishing as long as you stay at range. And I would really recommend picking Taliyah if your team composition has a lot of CC, so this enables you to land your combo, and I guarantee you, whoever is hit by your full combo is going to get blown up. Now we're going to stay in the jungle here, and I'm going to talk about two more champions who I think are super underrated. Now the first one is Xin Zhao. Now I understand that Xin has been nerfed, Gore Drinker, Conqueror, these have all been nerfed. Well, this is why we're going to go lethal tempo instead of Conk. Because Xin Zhao, a bit like Wukong, your E is going to give you attack speed. So when you dash in, you can stack lethal tempo a lot quicker, and the extra range is going to allow you to deal more damage and actually just stay connected and stick to the enemy champion you're chasing. And instead of going Gore Drinker, which has been nerfed, I want you guys to go Eclipse with Essence Reaver and then Guardian's Angel. Now the reason I love Eclipse is because it's been buffed. For melee champions, the passive's cooldown, this is down to 6 seconds, and it's also 100 gold cheaper. With Essence Reaver and then GA, it gives you all the damage, cooldown, and then survivability you need. So if you want a 1v9 game, Xin Zhao with lethal tempo is certainly one of the strongest picks in the jungle and on the entire Rift, just like this next champion, who is Hecarim. And lots of Hecarims are going Divine Sunder, and maybe even some of them are going Trinity Force. Guys, it's time to stop. What we're going to do is go the new Turbo Chem Tank, and then follow this with a Dead Man's Plate and then a Spirit Visage. Now the reason why we're going Chem Tank is, to be honest, in most games you don't need the damage. Your teammates are going to pick Yasuo and Yone top, so by giving your team the backbone it needs with Chem Tank, Dead Man's, all that tankiness, it just makes your team composition a lot more solid. But also if we think about Turbo Chem Tank, okay, you're not getting the Immolate passive, so your clear speed will be worse, but your clear is good anyway, because your Q is on a very low cooldown, you just have good innate clear speed. Now with Chem Tank's new Refuel passive, this is where the real power comes in, because this auto attack is like an AoE Dead Man's auto attack, and this stacks quicker the more movement speed you have. And for Hecarim, when you're running Ghost with Chem Tanks active, you can get so many of these empowered Refuel auto attacks off. This also synergizes really well with Dead Man's passive and makes you a really scary mid, even to late game champion, just because of the amount of damage you can deal while being a tank. Now as far as your runes go, we're taking Predator with Ingenious Hunter. Ingenious Hunter is going to allow us to get the Chem Tank active and passive off more often, which is absolutely ideal. So Hecarim really underrated at the moment, and I'd highly recommend picking him if the enemy team has a lot of immobile champions. Now we're going to head back to the mid lane here and talk about one of the best counters to melee close range champions, and this is Cho'Gath. And I'm not kidding you, this dude has close to a 70% win rate in Korean high elo. That's how broken this guy is. Now Everfrost being 400 gold cheaper. Lovely. Cosmic Drive with the new Phase Rush passive and the 30 ability haste it gives you, the more HP. These are really nice additions, and then finishing this build off with Azonius gives you the durability, the setup, and the damage you need. Now as far as your runes go, the first tree is very similar to Hecarim's. We're taking Predator with Ingenious Hunter, and that's simply so we can get more Everfrost off. Because think about Cho'Gath, landing your Q, lands into an Everfrost root, into a silence, that enemy champion you hit is never going to escape. This is why I also want you guys to run Ignite, because it just increases your kill pressure. Landing one Q is just going to lead to fatalities. And as for your secondary treat, make sure you're taking Resolve with Conditioning and then Overgrowth. This gives you the scaling tankiness you need, because Cho'Gath scaling, even as an AP damage dealer, is nuts. So if you see someone on the enemy team lock in a close range champion in the mid lane who you can silence and probably land your Qs on, more often than not, Cho'Gath is legit an unreal pick. Now let's head back to the top lane and talk about this next champion, who is Kled. Now I have mentioned Kled before, but to be honest, he's not really played enough, and a bit like the other bruisers and fighters we've talked about so far. So if you think about Xin Zhao and Wukong, on Kled, we're also taking lethal tempo. Now this keystone is just so beyond broken for melee champions. The fact you get 15% attack speed for one stack is just nuts, and then the fact that your range increases for a champion like Kled, it just gives you more stickiness so you can just go ham. And it's also really nice for Kled this patch because Sunfire Aegis has been buffed, so it's still the same 3200 gold, but it's giving you more armor, more magic resist, and then also 50 bonus HP via the mythic passive. This works really well with your first item, which should be Titanic Hydra, and then when you finish this build with Steris Gauge, you have so much tankiness, but also the DPS you need to pretty much beat any fighter in the game. Now we've got two more champions to talk about here, guys, and coming in at number 2, we have Galio, but not in the mid lane. We're playing Galio as a support. At the moment, Galio in the support role has close to a 60% win rate, and that's because of the new Ebon Shroud Mythic. So this Mythic, which is 2500 gold, is giving you the same stats as Locket is giving you, but the passive, when you immobilize an enemy champion, so with your W, with your ultimates knock up, with your E's knock up, that champion is going to take increased damage from your teammates. And like I said, this should be really easy to proc on a champion with that much CC. Now after this, you can go Abyssal Mask, which is going to reduce the enemy champion's magic resist and also boost your own magic resist. And for a melee champion who's going to be getting their heads in there, Galio, this is great. Now you can finish this with a Knight's Vow to give your AD carry the backing they need. And as far as your runes go, it's actually really exciting because you can run Predator, which is going to allow you to roam around the map. And I really love the pairing with Relentless Hunter. The extra movement speed just allows you to get around the map and use your ultimate, gank lanes. It just gives you way more agency in any game you're in. So Galio support's certainly one of the most low-key broken champions in this current patch, but one champion who's even more broken, and to be honest, I don't even know one player who plays this. That's how unknown this is. This is Skarner in the top lane. Now, the reason Skarner in the top lane works is because of the new Fimbulwinter item, or Winter Soldier, which is 2600 gold, and this is pretty much just the tier tank item. So once you get to 360 stacks of your tier, and you actually complete the Winter Soldier item, this is going to transform into Fimbulwinter, and the passive is really what you're after here. So when you slow or immobilize an enemy champion, you're going to get access to this shield based off your mana. And because you have so many slows and stuns in your kit, for Skarner, you can actually proc multiple shields from your Fimbulwinter off in teamfights. Even in 1v1s when they're extended, which for the most part they will be, against top lane tanks, fighters, and bruisers, it becomes really valuable. Now for your first item though, we want to be going Anathema's Chains. This not only gives you the really important ability haste you need, but also a massive chunk of HP, and also the passive, which is going to improve your 1v1. And once you follow this up with a Frostfire Gauntlet, which is now dealing AoE magic damage in that slowed area, and then finish your Fimbulwinter, you turn into one of the biggest beasts in the top lane and on the Rift. This is why Skarner in high reloads as a top laner has one of the best win rates, so I'd highly recommend picking him into those melee close range top laners. So those were the 13 kind of updated low-key broken champions, guys, for 11.23. If you did enjoy the video, please let us know by leaving a like down below. Also make sure to subscribe to the channel and to check out the GameLeap website down below, linked in the description and comment section, for everything you need to do with League of Legends, whether it's improving your micro, your macro, your laning, decision making, I don't care what it is. We have everything you need to help you reach your potential. And until tomorrow's daily video, this has been